All right. I think we're live here. Just hold on for just a second. There we go. Welcome to the Rabyd Atheist live stream, Rabyd Reflections for the 23rd of November, 2024. Today I'm going to open up the all-important thing of content selection to all of you, where you can ask me anything that you want to, or bring up any subject that you want to. I have a couple of comments that I can deal with if everybody's at a loss for words, but that didn't happen even before the stream started. So we have Agora. I have to thank you very much. And you're more than welcome at any time to drop those and let me know what they are, and I can tell you what my 2 cents are. Not that 2 cents keeps buying less and less these days, so that's what they're worth. So, hey, David. See Fred here. We got Rimmer here. We got a bunch of people here. So, but yeah, I wanted to, before I get into any comments today, I got a few comments that I wanted to deal with off the bat, because some of the things. But yeah, just a few comments I wanted to deal with. I always get these comments about praying for me, and I wanted to let everybody know what I think about them. I appreciate the sentiment. However, I have no desire to be a brother in Christ anymore. And the rest of it is just kind of assertions. He's coming back soon, I guess, is another assertion. Easy to believe that. This one, I think some of you guys have seen before several times in the comment section. It's an assertion, double assertion without evidence. I blocked him. Yeah, I get it. My problem with I assume you're meaning this guy or the other guy before. The problem with this one is I can say, I don't know, Thor is good and Loki is evil and have the same effect, I guess. That's kind of the way it goes. Hello, Paul. Hello, everybody. Glad to see you, Martin. All right. Another one. I wanted to respond to the idea of, well, I got this in a couple of comments on my last video on slavery, and I got it. Well, some people take this as allegorical, or I'm not really sure that Mr. MacArthur is actually being eisegeting the text. I think he's actually properly exegeting it. And that's why slavery is a thing. I think he's actually being very honest. So I also have the same problem with there's allegorical interpretations and subjective interpretations and whatever. So the problem I've always had with that is then you can pretty much make the Bible mean what you want, and the New Testament writers and Jesus and the dialogue doesn't take it that way. Definitely historical events to them. So yeah, you have to do the rest of that. So that's that one. It's a common objection, but there. And then of course this guy. Slavery is one of the punishments for sin. So God doesn't do the dirty work himself. He lets fellow human beings enslave other human beings as a punishment for sin. And that's only true. The last line is only true if you take it as history, which I don't think it is. I think the whole idea of them being slaves in Egypt was just not true. No. Going back to the other one. Yeah, the thing is, when you analyze the character, it just doesn't seem to work really well. So, but yeah, I think this is the real problem I have with this kind of blanket statement. The other problem is I have is how do you think this is doing any good? Um, how do you think this is convincing anybody? I don't think it works that way. So, but I always have people ask me why I let some comments slide, and I'm like, well, they're one, they illustrate my point, and two, they're entertainment gold sometimes. But this one got to me because this is the only person in that video that kind of tried to justify slavery in the comments section and basically said it's just a curse. It's an evil thing, but it's just to be expected in a cursed world. And I'm like, okay, whatever. There's other ways of cursing sin and whatever. So I just don't get it. But all right. So, yeah. So Angora has her stuff, and she says she's going to have to go over them one at a time. That's fine because then my brain won't get overloaded, and so that'll be cool. I can do that. So just slap out one at a time, and I'll take them. And if anybody else has any other questions, I will gladly answer them to the best of my ability. I am not an expert in all things, but if it's a religious or Christianity question, I'm usually pretty good with it. So um, everybody has the character limit. So just fire away. Just list them off one at a time. Doesn't have to be in specific order. Doesn't have to be any of that. Just let me have them. And if anybody else has questions, you're kind of control yourself. I don't know if we're really good at that, Fred. I don't know. All right. While we're waiting for Agora, I can answer that one. I would say that the reason a lot of theists come to atheist channel is they're insecure about their belief, or they're egotistical enough that they think that they can win an argument. Apologists um, have to get wins because you can see it reflected in many of the apologists, like with the cold case detective that writes tactics. It's all about winning. Okay, and so they have to start a fight and a battle in order to um, um, they have to start a fight and a battle in order to get their wins. And so if they don't do that, then their whole existence depends on them beating the atheist. And the atheists are an easy target for that. I mean, you don't see them they'll go after other religions too, but they don't go as hard after them because at least they believe in something, Yeah. Just a reminder, Agora's a dude. I know. And yes. Yeah, well, just yeah, no specific order. That's fine. But yeah, I think the reason they come to atheist channels is they can get that victory. They can get that win. Um, they get all that stuff. So there's that aspect of it. Uh, I think there's another reason. I think there's a lot of Christians that come to channels like mine because they're insecure about their belief. And the reason I can say that is I used to, back in the day, the early days of the internet, I used to go, um, they used to go, I used to go to forums to debate atheists for the same reason. I was trying to figure out why they would believe what they believe or didn't believe what they believe, and wasn't really secure with that. So there they go. All right. All right. Agora, the desire to exist indefinitely. A lot of people have desires, doesn't make them possible or true. I guess that would be my first objection. just because I want to live forever, just because somebody wants to live forever doesn't mean it's possible. I mean, I want like $6 million in my bank account tomorrow. That's not going to happen. Okay, it's probably not going to happen. Um, um, but yeah, I just don't see. I don't see that of that. For Mr. Rott, I don't think that that's even reality. Okay, you got to give me pictures. Okay, anybody can make up an idea of lake of fire, but that's just imaginary to me. So, am I prepared to spend an eternity? Yeah, probably, because I wouldn't want to serve the God of the Bible. He's kind of a prick. Okay, so I just don't have time for him. And I don't think a real God would do that anyway. That's benevolent. A benevolent God would not have a hell or a lake of fire. They would probably have a much better rehab system than we could possibly. It shows that God is an abject failure in convincing people to have something like hell or a lake of fire. So I don't think the question is necessarily even legitimate. It's not a question. I don't believe it's real. You believe it's real, and you haven't given me any evidence for it. So there's that. Cosmic justice. Once again, just because I want something to be true doesn't make it so. Just because I would like to see um, everybody get what they deserve. I think it's one of the things I've learned to accept as an atheist is that some people get away with it, and good people. One of the last things that went for me was any kind of sense of karma, and so I just I've seen good people suffer a lot and never get anything back for it, and you just kind of it doesn't prove that there's an eternity or God. It just means that human beings. So there's that aspect of it. But yeah, it's like we have this sense of justice and we like to have a sense of justice, but I don't think it happens all the time in the earth. And just because I want it to be so, that's just wishful thinking. That doesn't make it true. So I don't think that proves anything. That we all have this sense of ultimate justice doesn't really prove that such ultimate justice actually exists. Just because you want something to be true doesn't make it so. Yeah, I kind of suspected as much, but you're the one that has to prove a lake of fire exists, hell exists, and all the rest of it, and you don't have any evidence for it. As far as I'm concerned, it's as made up as Valhalla, and I actually like Norse mythology. So you don't believe that Valhalla is real because I don't have evidence, but then I'm supposed to turn around and believe that there's a hell and a lake of fire um, because you believe in it. What's the difference? I don't believe in hell and all that stuff for the same reason you don't believe in Valhalla. So, yeah, it's the fear of death. Um, Seeking cosmic order. Once again, you're talking about human beings seeking something that they want. It doesn't necessarily make it so. I mean, if you look at the universe, it's certainly not ordered for human existence because the vast majority of the universe will kill you in seconds. So that's not if you were suddenly transported there. So it's the fact that we're here is kind of a crapshoot anyway. But I appreciate the crapshoot. Um, I know what you're asking. That if I'm prepared to deal with a lake of fire if it turns out to be reality, but I'm as prepared for that reality as Valhalla turning out to be real. Okay, or hell in the Norse sense, or whatever hell the Hindus have. Whatever consequence that you religious types put out there, that's, as far as I can tell, completely imagination and made up. I don't really feel like I should mentally prepare for that. Now, if one of them turns out to exist, yeah, I'm kind of prepared to deal with a God who is unjust that would burn people forever for a finite crime of 80 years or so. Even if a person lived to be 120, you're going to burn them forever for a 120 year span. There's no good sense of justice. That's just trying to justify injustice as something else. It's an ancient way. So I don't believe the Bible anymore. I have degrees in that shit. And I've studied the Bible enough to know that its contradictions are real and everything is real. So I don't have to deal with that. I he's you know I'm sorry that if you honestly assess the Bible, it's the work of men, and it's a religion, and it's designed to make people afraid and control people. Hell is a control mechanism, politically speaking, and that I have a political science degree. So putting fear on people is the most ancient control mechanism there is, and that's exactly what Christianity does with hell. Um, yes, this is kind of my point. Uh, yeah, we like to see people get justice. We like to think that we're going to live forever, and so we create a mythology around it to make it happen. But I don't buy that anymore. If I find out it's real, am I prepared? I don't. I think the probability of my finding out that it's real is not. If I'm prepared, yeah, I'm prepared to shake my fist at that fucking idiot God that is in the Bible. Okay, he's not only evil, he's a moron. Okay, there's tons of better ways that human beings have come up with. Okay, but yeah, I don't have any belief in him. You can believe in him all you want, but I'm just not that. Um, Justifying a favorite hierarchy. Um, Once again, that's a human reason to have a god. Okay, so you create one so you can justify a hierarchy. Yeah, screw that. It's there's a reason why religion and politics and governments come up about the same time in human history. They each support each other. I would say religion is a prostitute that sleeps with politics, and politics is happy to have them sleep with them because they give them benefit. So it's no accident government and religion are bedfellows and they work together. And so, yes, um, I suppose, but that doesn't prove a God exists, and it doesn't prove that a grand meaning or purpose to life exists. You can make that up. Um, so, I guess my issue is the real problem I have with this argument is I think the assumption that purpose is better or greater because it's eternal. I'm not so sure that's true. I think we find value in things that are temporary. I can have a temporary purpose that's a good purpose, and when I die, that purpose is over, and I'm completely content with that. Okay, I don't see the need anymore to have this grand meaning or purpose in life. I don't think that that proves a God either. Once again, just because a human being has a desire for something to be true doesn't make it true. Okay, you can have a lot of desires. There's a lot of things I would love to be true that aren't. And I've been in car accidents, and I do not fear death. Just so you know, I fear death as much as I feared non-existence before I was born. Okay, once you get into an understanding of the fact that your life is finite, you don't really fear death. I would rather, if I have any fear left, it's a fear of not living the one life I have to the fullest. Okay, and always trying to do that. But I fully understand death. I've had three brushes with death, and you know what? I'm still here as an atheist, because if that's the way God wants to bring me back by being an abusive prick and trying to give me to fear something so that I run back to him, that's an abuser's mentality that your God has. That if I put people through crap and bring them back, that's not love, that's abuse. Okay. I get what you're saying. I think everything you said, though, is okay. So human beings have these desires. That doesn't mean whatever mythology they come up with to answer those desires is real. Like there's a reality to it. when you look at religion, religion attempts to answer all those questions, but they come up with different answers. They go all over the place. They're everywhere. So it's kind of that kind of thing. So uh, me too. I know from my own experience, and here I am, and still an atheist. So that doesn't prove anything. If you're trying to get me to fear something, then no, I'm done. Yes, I think we can create a sense of justice in our lifetime. Yeah, religion gets used for that a lot too. Uh, Christians have this superiority complex, as demonstrated tonight. Okay, there's that. The transcendental argument, really? I don't know. I don't find any of them good anymore. They all. Oh, I get the joke, and that's the sad part. Uh, um, yeah. I think this is the biggest reason people stay in the faith. I It's the wanting to believe it's true. It's not just fear of death; it's regrets about relationships with other people. It's also people lie to people, and then you still have this good relationship with people. I had that a lot in a lot of my churches in the Assemblies of God. Is that I had, and in my last church, I had these good relationships with people, but a lot of them lied to me, and then I was preaching and didn't really believe. So there's a lot of lying going on. And I think people want to hold on to the belief because then it justifies everything else in their life in the church. The church is really good at keeping people in relationships um, with each other and with this imaginary character. And I think cognitive dissonance has a lot to do with it. They play on it. Every 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 one of those. So kind of plays on that. Everything that Christianity does that I am aware of is kind of trying to keep it at exactly what I'm talking about: pride and tribal affiliation. Christians are very proud of being Christians. Oh, we're humble Christians. We don't. No, no, you're proud of it. Okay, you have the truth, and everybody else is a liar, and everybody. It really allows you to pack. So, yeah, the need to feel special. I think we have this human need to be something more than what we are. And religion taps into that. Belief in God taps into that. That you're so important that God came down and picked you. Yeah, Calvinism has got a lock on the appeal to ego. Okay, it's like you are one of the elect. You are one of the chosen of God. You're one of the people that God has specifically selected. What a trip that is. What a real trip. Argument from ignorance. Yeah, pretty much. Uh, the world isn't safe, but you're right. Religion and theology, like that somebody is watching over the place, that nothing's ever going to, you know, uh, I grew up in the Cold War, and one of the biggest religious things was that's not going to happen unless God wants it to happen. And it kind of gives you a measure of safety of, the USSR and the USA weren't going to nuke each other. But looking back at it now through an atheist lens, holy crap, how close did we come to killing everybody? Yeah. I mean, not to mention that even if everything was peaceful on planet Earth, um, I have a question to ask. What if an asteroid hits us? What if all that stuff happens? You know, life is a very fragile thing, and the world isn't safe. There is no such thing as safety. You have relative safety, but I don't think you have. There's no such thing as absolute safety. Yeah, me too, Fred. I'm kind of there. Stigmatized Christian. Yeah, I think that's also what you get. You get a what I would call, when you really look at religion, notice how much most religions uphold the authorities and the powers that be. Um, that's why I say they're bedfellows. They're in, government, and that is all that. I remember seeing the movie a long time ago, and I don't remember reading the book. I guess I would have to get a summary. You know, yeah, I don't know if stigmatizing Christianity is a good idea in that sense, but I don't have a problem stigmatizing Christianity. I don't want to stigmatize Christians because that's what they do to me. Um, I don't have a problem with them arguing against my atheism. I have a real problem with them saying that I'm immoral because of it. There's a lot of good people that are Christians. Um, it's their faith that's really a problem, as you point out. Yeah, it does promote many vile things. So, yeah, I would just soon religion went away. I think religion belongs to our infancy as a race of human beings, and we need to get past it. Um, well, thanks. Gora, thanks for the donation and thanks for all the stuff. Yeah, if I look at all the stuff you said, it just because you have a desire for something to be true and the human race has a lot of those desires, it doesn't make it actually factually true. And so those aren't arguments for good arguments for a God or anything like that. They're just more of an argument for this is what we'd like to be true, but liking something to be true and actually being true or true. Fair point. Fair point. I mean, I have the truth, but at least I'm not wrong. Yeah, I suppose that's true. You know, I can, I think atheists can say, well, I'm not wrong a lot. I don't know if I'm completely right, but I'm not always wrong. Yes, this is, I mean, we saw an example of this, with a guy coming in here. I don't know if he's still here, but um, he's like, coming in here, are you prepared for the lake of fire? Are you prepared for this thing? And his whole justification for coming here is he wants to reach me for Jesus. Well, I've already been reached for Jesus, and I would assume that he keep his paws off me from now on, metaphorically speaking, because I don't. The thing with Jesus is he's either a very legendary figure that's been completely puffed up to something he was never supposed to be in the first place, or he didn't exist and people made him up. So either way, but yeah, it's so this person is going to come on my channel and not have a good relationship with me because he's over here thinking that using fear tactics and fear mongering on me is going to work. He proposes the idea, what if you find out the lake of fire is, you're asking me to throw dice and gamble. Okay. And I've said it before. Pascal's wager actually favors the atheist. Okay. Because the atheist is betting on black, that none of that spiritual crap is real. Okay. It either is real or isn't. And I'm betting that it isn't. Okay. So I got a 50-50 shot of being right. You guys on the theist side have all your squares with all your beliefs and variants of beliefs, and you're betting on one small little square on that wheel, and we're going to spin the wheel and hope it comes up. Okay. So it's that problem. And I think a lot of these people use their beliefs to kind of justify breaking relationships and fear mongering. Christians are notorious for fear mongering with the doctrine of hell. So it's just kind of stupid at these points. uh, you know, uh, Breakfast. Here's the thing about your channel, why I love it so much, because you basically just throw their argument back in their face. And it's brilliant. It's probably the most brilliant thing I've seen done to pre-suppers ever. Just pointing out to them that they actually don't believe that there's a God, and just using the same. It's I think that is one of the most brilliant things I've seen done, and I'm absolutely fantastically think it's fabulous that your channel exists. If any of you guys on my channel haven't checked out Breakfast Tacos, go do so. His battles with pre-suppers are legendary, and so he's absolutely the best thing that has happened to the internet in a while. From a post-apologetics point of view, getting at back those guys. Yeah, I think that's probably a better way to do it. Stigmatize faith. I will have to give it a shot. The Barabbas 19. I'm sure back in the day when I was hanging around the thing with my parents that we watched it on Turner Broadcasting or something. I'm sure it was on there at some. So. Absolutely true. I'm sure Abraham Lincoln said that. Absolutely. No problem. Listen, because I have banned pre-suppers from my channel. Okay, if they start out with "You really believe in God," or one of the classic lines, I'm like, "Nah, I'm done." I don't have any patience for that, and I'm absolutely thrilled that somebody does have the patience with them. And your argument, I knew you were going to do pretty well right out the gate because your argument against them is just brilliant. It's like, it's kind of that kind of thing. So I'm absolutely, I'll absolutely promote your channel. Some of the things that you do there is great. I watch you fairly often. I just don't comment very much. Don't have time. I just don't have time. Got a lot of things to do myself. So, yeah, I think that's kind of why I say that if I'm going to play the wager game, I'm going to bet on black. Okay, that there isn't any of it. Everybody wants to believe it, but I've never. See, this is the power of faith, the power of belief. It has this ability to cause people to do things that are very harmful to each other. I think that the old quote of, good people are going to do good, evil people are going to do evil, but if you want good people to do evil, bring in religion. I think that's so true. Belief has such a powerful thing, and I wouldn't give it a second thought if it didn't have that power. Okay. So there's that. It's not, dude. Well, first of all, I think you kind of have to prove that Jesus said that. And given that all the gospel writers are anonymous and their sources are anonymous, it could be completely made up. Okay, so there's your first problem. As far as making it easy, I don't think so. I think what God could do is give us a basic knowledge of his existence that everybody couldn't deny. And then whether to choose to serve him or not is a completely different question. Okay, at that point, if I were to postulate such a God did such a thing, then it's still a question of service. I mean, you have it in your own book. Okay, if you're going to take your own book as a guide, how about Satan himself? Okay, he certainly couldn't deny God's existence. The demons believe and tremble doesn't do them any good. Just because people believe that God God exists wouldn't change the fact that they would still have a choice about whether to serve him or not. Okay, that's a completely different question. Okay, and God could easily, if he really existed, make it very easy for everybody to just have this basic belief, but that doesn't exist. Okay, it doesn't. I know your book says it does, but that's how I know that your book is wrong. I genuinely don't believe in God anymore, and it's not I'm denying existence or I'm mad at him or anything. I genuinely don't think he exists. I think he's an imaginary character, just as imaginary as Odin and Thor and all the rest of them. So, hey, thanks, Fred. Appreciate you. My initial upbringing, I My parents have an interesting past because they were married 6 years before I came along, and I'm an only child. So, before I came along, my parents were like liberal 1960s hippie types. I mean, they didn't dress that way or act that way. They had jobs and things like, but their attitude was very liberal, very open. So when I came along, that's when they became religious. And I think it was the whole idea of religious teaching teaches morality. And so I ended up in the Pentecostal church from the time I was couldn't remember anything. It was like some of my first memories are the beginner class in our Sunday school. Very nice lady that, taught little kids and, things like that. And so I grew up in this every day, going to church 3 or 4 times a week. I think the indoctrination, that's why it held. But the biggest reason is the emotional connection. Pentecostals are very emotional. And so it creates a lot of emotional connections between people. And indoctrination, I've told you before, indoctrination doesn't have to be abusive. It can be very, very love bombing. Okay. And that's kind of exactly what was the case in my church, is it was very, um, you know, it was very, people just loved on you and cared about you. And it was genuine love there for people. My dad was definitely one of those people that just liked people. He would have been that way whether he was religious or not. My mom, same. So it's more of a, from my standpoint, indoctrination creates emotional connections is probably the thing that's strongest, and it ended up hanging with me for quite a while. So it's kind of one of those things where the emotions of it kept me in the faith far longer than the intellect of it. The intellect of it died in my 20s. I was realizing that I was going up an uphill battle of proving that Christianity was true from a rational point of view. Emotions are probably, yep, they don't name themselves. Okay, every gospel writer, um, go read the gospels and ask yourself a question: where do they name themselves? Where does Matthew say the writer is Matthew? Where does Mark say the writer is Mark? That's all church tradition, and it's all based on one guy's statement. It doesn't even meet the biblical criteria of 2 or 3 witnesses. So, yeah. Well, I don't know. Breakfast. Female pre-supper. I don't know. Good luck. It's kind of like finding a female atheist. Okay, they're hard too. I know what you mean. I absolutely know what you mean. I don't believe Jesus existed in the way Christians think he existed. I think he may have been a rabbi, but everybody else is taken. So you're good with me going to hell, huh? No, no love like Christian love. Um, Sorry, I think that's probably one of the great intellectual dishonesties that Christians do to themselves. They believe in hell. They don't want people to go there, but if people go there on their own, they're good with it. Okay. Mm, yes. Yeah, this is the issue, Fred. It's emotional indoctrination. You will keep the people keep the faith far for more emotional reasons than intellectual ones. They try to project that on us. Though, the reason I'm an atheist is something happened to me and emotionally it went wrong, and that's why I'm an atheist, and blah 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 blah. It's kind of that way with it, and I've kind of realized that that's what they're doing. I would agree with probably. I think the thing that's overlooked about indoctrination is when a person first commits their life to Jesus, for instance, regardless of age, they enter into what I would call a very childlike state of mind, where the same indoctrination techniques that work with children will work with them. If you're in a very emotionally desperate, that's why a lot of people who convert later in life are usually in this emotionally desperate state. And so Christianity latches onto that, and then the indoctrination works for them as well. That's why you'll see, conversion stories of people that were atheists or mean people or sinners or whatever, and then later on they give their heart to Jesus, and it works. It works because the mental state, I think, is the same. But probably 90% of the people that are in the church are there because they were taught that as a child. It worked for me for quite some time. I didn't give up my faith until I was in my 40s. Um, but it's kind of unfair to the kids because kids don't really have the ability to assess truth and whether something is true or not. So, and religion takes advantage of that. So, um, there's a lot of naturalist explanations, but you imply that are you implying that the creator has to be a person? Because that sounds like something that human ego would tell me, that God has to be like me. Okay, or the creator has to be like me. I'm sorry, I don't know that infinite regress is necessarily a problem, and I guess I would have to see theistic proof of a creator. Okay, it's not up to me to prove a non-creator. It's up to you to prove that this is created. That's the assertion. I'm just like, I don't see it. Okay, but I would definitely explain things. There's many. The real problem for you theists today is there's so many good naturalistic explanations that have data and evidence behind them. So the theist is really in the problem, not me. Okay, I would ask people to prove there's a creator. Okay, because from my perspective, um, life, abiogenesis has come a long way compared to where creationists keep talking about it. They avoid some of the things that abiogenesis has discovered. They keep hanging around the 1970s and 80s because of that. So I don't think that that's necessarily the case. So, but no, I don't see a creator in it. So, but apparently you want to come in, so I'll let you come in.
Yes, hi, what's up?
Hey,
So, what is your name?
Ed Raby.
Ed?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that both proponents have the burden of proof. So it's not only us as theists and Christians that have the burden of proof, but if you claim that no God is the no God hypothesis is reasonable, then you have also the burden of proof to provide reasons.
If I reject, let me ask you a question. What brand of theism are you?
I am an evangelical Christian.
So you believe in the Christian God. So you don't believe in Vishnu, I imagine, of the Hindu pantheon. Do you believe that
Right.
person that you don't
No,
believe?
I don't.
What proof have you offered that they don't exist? That's what you're asking me to do. You don't have to provide proof that Vishnu doesn't exist. It's the people that believe in Vishnu that have to provide proof that he exists. You are an
Well,
atheist. You
well,
no,
I
no,
mean,
you
I
are
mean,
you are an atheist as far as the belief in Vishnu yourself. You have atheistic beliefs about every other single god that you do not have to prove. Okay, and I would not ask you to prove those. I
well,
just
I am
say
also not
yours is
asking you
also
any.
untrue.
I am not. I am also not asking you for proof. What I am asking you is, what good evidence do you have that is superior to theistic belief that explains our existence in a more case adequate manner than theism? So, if you believe that the no God hypothesis is more reasonable than the God hypothesis, then I would like to see what reasons these are.
I don't think an agnostic atheist has to provide reasons. You're looking for a Gnostic atheist that would tell you there is no God. I'm not saying there is no God. I am saying that there isn't any good reason to believe in one because I haven't been given good reasons to believe in any of them.
Well, I mean, if all what you have to offer is your confession of disbelief, then I have no use for it.
Well, but that's the point. Your problem is you're thinking of atheism as a worldview, and it does not have that capacity to be one. Okay, a
Well,
person who
it
says,
depends. There are different
no, no,
branches of
no, it doesn't
atheism:
have the,
strong atheism, weak
what is the
atheism,
definition? What is the
agnostic
definition of a
atheism.
worldview? What is your definition of a worldview?
Now,
A
what I'm saying
worldview
is this,
encompasses a
Ed.
lot of other things than belief in God.
What I'm saying is this, Ed. There are different branches of atheism. There is strong atheism, weak atheism, agnostic atheism, and so forth. If your only confession is, I don't believe you, why should I care?
So but once again, atheism cannot provide a worldview because it only deals with one question. Is
No, I'm
there a
talking about you. I'm talking about you. If the
Oh,
only
me?
thing that you have to offer is, I don't believe you, why should I care?
Um, I would say that I don't want to engage in beliefs that are based on wishful thinking, which is what most of theism is. You also have a belief in magic, which hasn't been demonstrated to exist. I think theism stands on much shakier ground than atheism because you're having to prove a whole bunch of things that you cannot prove. And obviously apologetics these days wants to run away from the burden of proof for that very reason. Okay, they keep trying to put it on me. You're the one that says the Christian God exists. Prove it. Okay, prove it. Because there should be evidence all over
Well,
the
first
if
of
what
all,
you postulate about God is true, then there should be evidence everywhere, and there isn't.
it would be a question: what would you regard as proof? And I don't think the question is about proofs, because the metaphysical world cannot be proven, either that it exists or
Exactly.
does not exist. So that is, in my understanding, a moot question. I think that a good philosophical question would be, how can we best explain our existence? Now, if you want to engage in that question, then I'm interested. If your only thing that you have to offer is, I don't believe you, again, you've not answered me. Why should
But
I
you
care?
all, whoa, 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 back up here. But that's the answer that you give to the Hindu. I don't believe you. You give the same answer to every other belief except your own. You're
No,
special. Yes, you do.
no. I make a
Because
positive case. I make a positive case for Christianity, and I have good
yes,
reasons
but
to be a
that's not
Christian,
what you
and I
do
can
to
expose and
everybody else.
I can
Sorry,
expose why I
no.
believe Christianity is true. And the same thing goes to you. If you want to have a meaningful discussion, then I want to know why you think that an alternative explanation to a creator is superior to theism.
Because all those alternative explanations that don't involve a creator actually have data and evidence behind them. You don't.
What
You have
evidence
nothing.
what
I'm
evidence
sorry.
and what data do you have?
Okay, first of all, I am not a physicist. I'm not a chemist. I'm not any of those biological terms. There's plenty of people that will provide you that evidence for that kind of thing other than me. Okay, I don't suddenly become an expert in all those things. However, what I do know is that I can look at something where somebody says, and God created the world in 6 days, and it's just in a book of ancient mythology. So what? Okay, I've got creation stories all over from every pantheon that exists. On what basis do you adjudicate yours is right compared to theirs? You haven't even given an explanation of why your brand of theism should be the explanation.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
something you have to do.
Your position is that you are completely irrelevant to the discussion because you have nothing
Well,
to offer.
that's your declaration because
That's
that's what
what
you
I
want.
perceive. That's what I think
No,
about
no,
you.
that is what you want to be true because that
No, that's
allows you
what
to
I
hold.
think about you. You have nothing meaningful to offer that would be convincing to me that the no God hypothesis makes actually any sense whatsoever.
I'm sorry, the no-God hypothesis makes perfect sense because nobody else is giving a God hypothesis that is based in reality. You have nothing. Okay,
Yeah, that's just a baseless assertion.
is it a baseless assertion? Give me your proof for
Yes.
your God. Give me your proof for your God. You
I don't
don't
need
have any.
I don't
Yes, you
need
do.
to have,
If you're going
give
to
me
make me
proof.
believe in, oh, no, no, no,
Okay.
no, you're on my channel. If you're going to make me believe in your God, you better doggone well give me evidence where I'm going to, sorry, you Christians do this all the time. So, oh, it doesn't cost you anything. Bullshit. You're asking me to give up my life, everything based on what you say is true. Prove what you say is true. I would demand the same out of a Hindu. I would demand the same out of a Muslim. Give me your evidence. If I'm going to do all this stuff with my life and follow all this stuff, give me your evidence. And you got nothing. So you turn it around to the atheist who's just saying, I'm not convinced. And you're trying to make us say, oh, I don't have anything valuable to say to the discussion. My value is I question everything you say, and you don't want to prove it because you're scared of it. I know, because I used to
I'm
be.
not scared
No,
whatsoever.
you are.
Now, do
You
you
are afraid.
scrutinize in the
You're
same
afraid.
manner the worldview that the no God hypothesis makes sense?
No, I'm not going to go on with this discussion. This is the same presuppositionalist bullshit that I deal with it. I'm not trying to be rude to him, but he's, you know, it's the same presuppositionalist apologetics. You know, it's like it's a mental trick that they play with themselves to try to get me, you don't have any value to the discussion. Well, you have to have proof that you have value to the discussion. And so far, no luck. Okay. I mean, I love how these people dismiss every other religion and they have an atheist viewpoint about, but somehow if I have an atheist viewpoint for all of it, somehow I'm irrelevant to the discussion. Come on, man. That's a load of shit. Okay. I just don't have that. I don't have that time. I don't know, bro. Just, I'll tell you what, asshole, why don't you and the mods make a decision about that guy? I think his problem is that he's kind of, I don't have any value to the discussion. Well, that's his opinion, man. Yeah, I suppose. Reddit atheist moment? Yeah. Am I a Reddit atheist? No. I have to put up with that guy. All right. Let's see. Who would be a challenge? That's my response to pre-suppers these days. Thanks, breakfast. Appreciate it. Just let him go to heck. Assertion without evidence. Prove it. All right. Well, let's see if Truth Speller does a little better.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
So, you don't see any evidence for God?
No.
Yeah, the Christian worldview is that all things stand in causal relation to God, that for anything to exist, there has to be an eternal ultimate. And so, like, if you consider, are you familiar with the scriptures at all?
I was a pastor for 20 years and I have degrees in Bible and theology.
Oh, okay, great. Then you'll understand kind of where I'm going. Romans 1, where it says the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness.
Yeah, just did a live stream on that Wednesday.
Yeah. Well, let me finish my statement, and you can, tell me your point on it. That the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth and unrighteousness. For that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has shown it to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood through the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they're without excuse. So in that passage, it's pointing out that all things stand in causal relation to God, and that his invisible attributes of God are clearly seen, being understood through the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they're without excuse. That for any temporal thing to exist, they would have to stand in virtue of some eternal ultimate. And so when we talk about life, love, and rationality and personhood, these are attributes of God, that he would be the ultimate origin point for these things that are, like when we talk about necessity of origin, from your position, you have like a something that would stand in contradiction to all this. Like you don't know where life, love, or rationality, personality came from.
Yes,
right?
I do.
Like, that's your position, that it's
Yes, I do.
from an impersonal ultimate.
Yeah. Whoa, back up.
I just want to ask
Back
this
up,
question.
back-
Does it come from an impersonal ultimate that's unidentifiable?
Okay, first of all, I think let's go back to Romans. Okay, that's like Paul's opinion, man. Okay, I think he's wrong, and in fact, I know he's wrong. Okay, because his assertion is everybody knows that there's a God, even if they deny it. That's not true. I know for a fact I don't believe in a God, and so Paul is full of shit. Okay, he's wrong right out the gate. I get that Christians don't like it when I say that, but you have to prove that Paul was right, okay, when he makes those assertions. Now, as for impersonal origin for all the things you talked about, I would say human beings being the origin of all those things is very personal. Okay, you just don't want to see, you have to see this ultimate origin of things, and I don't have to do that. Okay, I don't have to do that.
Well, okay, that's yeah. Thanks for responding to that. For the issue with not knowing what is ultimate as far as origin point, for like when we talk about things in existence, that facts require context, and without ultimate context, you're not going to be able to interpret the facts to reality in a coherent way.
I would say that that's an assertion.
And, well,
that you have to prove. Okay, you're sitting there saying there has to be an ultimate context. I don't believe that.
Do you believe that? Yeah. Well, do you believe that facts?
Or I could say,
do you believe that facts require context?
I would say yes, but I would also say the assumption that context has to be ultimate is an assumption.
Well, you haven't
proven that.
But when we're talking about the ultimate nature of reality, like if we're going to have a discussion, like if we're just going to discuss about our favorite pizza or our football team or something, that's a different discussion that would be more of a local context that we'd be referencing. But this discussion that you're bringing up, because you put up this live, is about ultimate reality. So from your position, what is the ultimate context of reality that by which you're able to interpret facts to be intelligible?
I would say, well, first of all, I think you have to prove your assumption first. I think I can say I'm genuinely searching for that context. You're saying there's an ultimate context, and you haven't proven that there is one. Okay, you've asserted that it's God, and you've used Romans to assert it, but both of those are assertions without evidence. Okay, yeah. So if you're going to say that I'm wrong because you have an ultimate, you have to prove your ultimate. I think the context of what defines reality ultimately comes down to what we humans begin to assert as real and what we can prove to be real. Okay, but asserting that there's a God to make that a reality, you have to prove then that there's a God that is real in order to make that statement, and you haven't done that. And no theist has done that. You can sit there and say, I'm basing mine on an assumption. Fine. But you are also basing yours on an assumption. Okay. And you have no proof for that assumption.
Yeah. Okay. So there we'll start there with assumption. So you say we each have assumption, which is really that we each have a presupposition, because I heard you kind of attacking presuppositionalism.
I don't necessarily have a presupposition.
Why I got this thought in my head, but what you just said there is the same thing. I got assumption, you got assumption. That is presuppositionalism.
I'm not sure that I necessarily.
I'm not sure that you want to have a conversation or not, because that's what an assumption is. It's you're assuming something. You're saying I'm assuming. I'm not mischaracterizing anything, but you don't want to get to the end of this for some reason. I just want to have a conversation here. So you have an assumption, I have an assumption, but what assumption actually can then validate, as far as which assumption will be the illogical train of thought that would ultimately lead to what the true nature of reality is.
Stop there.
Hold on, because my position is this, that without God, you can't know anything. If you don't start with God as context, as he has revealed himself,
which is a complete and utter assumption.
But look, but the thing is, without starting with the mind of God, how can you interpret facts to what the nature of reality is? Because that's what I asked
you. Just did it.
You admittedly
You just did it. Dude,
no,
you just
you
talked
admittedly
about how do I
said,
have
sir,
okay, now you're not letting me talk.
No,
now you're
sir, you're
mute. Okay. You have an assumption that there is a God that you haven't proven, but I'm supposed to somehow buy it because it answers all the rational, logical questions. But you are then assuming that rational and logic are standing outside of your assumptions. Even I can see it, and I'm not even that well trained in logic. Okay. Don't come here yelling about my assumptions when you haven't proven yours. Okay. Prove your assumptions, and then we can have a discussion, because then at that point I'll stop being an atheist.
But
this is the problem with
when you
this
say
is
you're
the problem.
Logical, that's an assumption, because you're not.
Yes, but you are too. You are too.
You
You just said it's logical to believe in a God.
You're just
You're
going
saying
off,
that
dude.
logic
You're just totally
presupposes
you don't
your belief.
actually want to have a
Okay, I'm done.
conversation like a.
You don't want to have a conversation either. What you want to do is come here with your presuppositionalism. You push your presuppositionalism as true without proving it. It is cowardly. Okay, go find your proof for your God presupposition. I'll gladly hear it. You would end atheism. I'm not scared of anybody. Okay. I just am scared of people just doing bullshit things because they think they can get a notch in their gospel gun. Sorry. You are saying the most logical reason is to go back to God. Okay. Well, then you're using logic and reason as a bigger presupposition than God itself. There's my answer. So let's go forward with logic and reason. It's a better foundation. Okay. But no. No, I'm not going to walk into this. Is why, asshole, this is why I'm not walking into his script. He's already got a script. I get it. And this is why pre-suppers are banned from my channel. They'll sit there and yell at me not wanting to have an honest conversation. And I'm like, you're using logic and reason to prove your God. So you're saying that logic and reason have more of an authority than your God. You haven't proven your God. Okay. I would say the same thing to a Hindu who says Vishnu explains everything. Okay. Prove Vishnu. I would say the same thing. Allah proves everything to a Muslim. Prove Allah. Okay. No, I'm not trying to be rude, but you're sitting there saying the most logical, reasonable thing is to accept a God. Then you're assuming that logic and reason are more authoritative than your belief in God. Okay, so why am I wrong in saying that reason and logic are a good way to find out what is true? And I'm sorry, you pre-suppers have your script. You have what you think works, but it doesn't work. All you're doing is pissing people off. Okay, it's a horrible apologetic, and I believe that when I was a theist. Yeah, I mean, look at the trees. You know, everybody knows that there's no gods exist. I agree with you. See, this is why I think is brilliant, Breakfast, because you're just doing what they said. They say the same thing. No, I don't buy your God. Prove your God. Okay. The burden of proof is on the person who makes the claim. I'm not making any claims other than to say, hey, I'm sorry, I don't find your evidence convincing. Give me better evidence. Okay. And for some reason, pre-suppers and apologists are running from that. Okay. They're running from it. That's why presuppositional apologetics has become so popular, because then they don't have to prove their point. They just have to try to attack everybody else's point. And somehow they win by default. Okay. You don't win the argument just because you prove everybody else wrong. Prove yourself right. Okay. So, but yeah, you know, these people get in, I leave my thing open, but you know, it's encounters like this that make me wonder who gets on my show. I want to have an honest dialogue. Where's your proof for God? Okay. Prove to me God exists and I'll cease to be an atheist. Okay. That's that simple. Okay. It's that simple. Yeah, I don't need, as far as evidence, give me something that's logical and reasonably sound. Give me something that'll hold up in court. Okay. Most of the things that presuppers talk about as evidence, they don't even know what evidence is. Okay. You also don't, give me something that is historically verified. You got nothing. Yeah, there you go. There you go. What properties do you think the universal quantum field have? And then you give the qualities. There they are. So, yeah, very well said. You see, I always love presuppositionals. They go after atheists of all stripes. They don't consider what their expertise is. My expertise is Bible and theology and politics. Okay, I got degrees in all that stuff. Okay, I know a little bit about economics. They come at me with the physics question, and it's like, I don't disbelieve because of having a better I don't believe in Satan either, and they're not satanic. They're Nordic, way to be prejudiced against Nordic people. Okay. He called you stupid? Of course. Okay. Once they get to the point where they can't, no, you're a presupper. Okay. Can't finish their sentence. What? Dude, you wouldn't let me talk. Okay. I'm trying to respond to your question and you wouldn't let me talk. Go back and listen to yourself, dude. You literally spent the entire, and I'm trying to answer part, I have objections at certain points and you wouldn't even let me get in. And this is my flipping show. Okay. You go do a show and let people ask you questions about your God and prove your point. You could end atheism by just proving that God exists. You could do it, but you can't do it. And you know it. And you really know that no gods exist. And you're just denying it in your unrighteousness. That's exactly the argument you made to me with Romans. Okay, you started with Romans. I don't believe your book. Prove your book is true. Okay, so there's your first strike against you right away. You're trying to quote scripture at me. It doesn't work. You can call my show a sham all you want. Okay, but I'm not going to let somebody come in here and talk, and not let me get a word edgewise. Okay, I love to listen. Okay, but you presuppers make it hard to listen because you just keep talking and you never allow people to talk back. Nice projection, but thanks. Daniel is. Yeah, this is what, okay. If you want to know what this show is, this is a great example of why I don't allow presuppers on my channel. Because they make a lot of assumptions. They come right at me. They're sitting there yelling at me because I have all these assumptions, while at the same time having one of the biggest assumptions of all, that there's a God. And they don't seem to think there's a need to prove their God anymore. Presuppositional apologetics is popular because it allows them to attack their opposing positions without defending their own. And I used to be some of these people. Okay. It's why I label myself a compassionate anti-theist. Okay. Because I used to be there. And you have not proven that the Bible is true. Sorry. Listen, proof of truth is going to always be a problem. Okay. Because nobody's ever going to really prove truth. There's no capital T truth to prove. That's something that you guys don't even bother to do either. Yeah, I think I'm going to give them 2 minutes to get their point out, and if they don't, okay. You know what? So if you see them again, you have my permission to shut them down. I think that, I'm trying to make some counterpoints to some things that say, because what they want to do is they want to get farther and farther down in the discussion. So you completely forget what they said at the beginning. And then, so you don't have a response. Oh, you don't have a response to that. it's like, if you're secure in your position, give me a little bit to respond to, and I can tell you why that's. I mean, I would have stopped him at Romans, okay, because I'd be like, I'm sorry, I think Paul is wrong. Can you prove Paul is right? Because they presuppose that Paul is right because it's their book and it's Holy Writ. And I'm like, you haven't proven it's Holy Writ. You haven't proven that God inspired it. Your start for your knowledge is shaky there at the beginning. And this is the problem with presuppers. They want to get past all the things that they don't have proof for and try to attack you on your proof when they don't have any proof for themselves. You're the Christian, you're making the claim that the Christian God exists. Give me your proof that the Christian God exists. Give me the proof that Jesus was the Son of God. This is First Peter says that that's what they're supposed to do. It's amazing how presuppositionalists absolutely disobey the Bible when it comes to, First Peter 3. It's like, give the reason for the hope that is within you with reverence and respect. They don't do either. Okay. And I try to be respectful, but I'm not bound by any code that says I should be honorable to people that are dishonorable pieces of shit. Okay. And right now I would say, you have that problem with presuppers is they just are dishonorable. They don't have any honor. And that's why I won't engage them. So yeah, I'll be honest. I'll let you know why that is, David. I have made a very clear statement that this is I won't say a safe space but a place where people can express their doubts about God, where they can deconvert and be at peace about it and without being harassed by theists. And so I don't have a problem with somebody who asks me questions. Okay. But you kept talking, when a guy keeps talking and doesn't let me get a word in edgewise and then wants to project that on me, it's like, dude, are you even listening to the conversation? Are you even listening to what you're saying? I wanted to go back to the whole Romans thing with that conversation. Like, how do you know that Romans is true? Okay. Because you're using that as an unjustified assumption. That's true. So the fact that everybody has assumptions is just real, but some assumptions can be proven more than others. Okay. Some have actual data and evidence behind them. God created the heavens and earth is an assumption that doesn't have any evidence behind it. You got to provide that. This is an old expression of hermeneutics, of looking at it like if the Bible defines a term, then you don't have to look at some other term as the way it's defined. Yeah, that happens a lot too. Yeah, it's kind of right. I mean, if you're reading a piece of literature, a guy uses a weird word, did he use that word somewhere else and define it? Is a good question to ask. But yeah, don't project on me, presuppers that I'm not. I literally sat there for 2 minutes letting the guy talk, and somehow I was wrong for interrupting. See, this shows the insecurity of the presupper. They don't want to be interrupted with their shtick. They don't want to actually have a conversation where I can stop them and say, hey, I have a problem with your assumption there. Can you prove that assumption? And that's the problem. You literally, and then with the one guy, it was like, dude, you literally are an atheist about every other God except your own. Okay. But somehow I've got to prove my atheism with all of them when you don't have to prove your atheism about the rest. It's dishonest. Okay. It just shows a lack of, when I was a Christian, I realized that the burden of proof was on me. Okay. I realized that. So that's kind of the, yeah, it's a great, as a person who writes fiction, I could see the world of the Bible being a great fictional world where the bad guy is actually Yahweh, but everybody is convinced he's the good guy. And then somebody figures it out at the end. Yeah. Yeah. This is why there's so many denominations, is that the Bible gets interpreted a million different directions. It really does. Okay. Assertion without evidence. Prove to me that a spirit is within me and that he owns me. What a horrible thing to think about yourself, by the way, that you're owned by somebody else and it's okay. Ezekiel interprets earlier scriptures from the benefit of social sensibilities of his time, and Jesus does it again, but is still open to interpret their interpretations. Yeah, there's a lot of that in biblical studies and biblical interpretation where you justify changing the interpretation depending on where you're at. I prefer fantasy because you can do anything with it as a writer. No, you haven't proven it's the truth. Prove it's the truth. It means that they presuppose certain things are true and they don't have to prove them. Like they will come at you. I have the right to presume that God exists, that I have a better explanation for reality, a better worldview. They come at you with a lot of presuppositions that they never bother to prove. And when you point out that they don't bother to prove them, they just switch it. Oh, you got to prove your assumptions. And so they play this game of trying to get me to prove their assumptions without proving theirs. It's a very dishonorable tactic and intellectually vacant, in my opinion. But, you know, they'll say that I'm being insulting there, but yeah. Yeah. Do you have any comment? No, you don't. Oops, I'm assuming. This is kind of my point about truth anyway. It's very subjective to human beings. And I'm not looking at that as touchy-feely, you know, everybody's opinion. It's all truth is relative to other things. Okay. This is why, you know, they want to have this big truth with a capital T. And I'm like, you're assuming that such truth exists. Give me the proof of it. Yes, this is exactly the point. True. I would say Star Wars is like a more of a space fantasy than a science fiction story, but yes, there's the thing about the rabbinical schools is there were different schools of thought on it. You know, Hinduism isn't Hebrew, you know, Judaism isn't exactly unified in how it's supposed to be interpreted. Even in the narrative of Jesus and the Gospels, there's that point where, you know, if you look at it a certain way, it's interpreted differently. For instance, the Sadducees didn't have any belief in the afterlife because there wasn't anything in the Old Testament that indicated an afterlife, particularly the Torah. Whereas the other groups that accepted the rest of the writings, prophecies, and stuff, because the Sadducees only accepted the law of Moses, which now has pretty much been proven to be fiction. So there's no historical backing for it. So you have that, but so yeah, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about that. I think what you would have, David, pick up any book on biblical hermeneutics, and somewhere in there they'll have a discussion of why they have scripture interpreting scripture. Okay. You know, the idea is to have, if there's a principle that's clearly explained somewhere in scripture, then when somebody just uses it in passing, then you can take that and assume that it belongs there. Part of the problem with that is it assumes that the entire Bible is a unified book, which it's not, when you get past all that. So it happens. But it looks like, you know, I got a lot of mods in the room, so I want to talk about what happens next time. I'm the only one that can control what happens inside of StreamYard, but I think I am going to give a 2-minute time limit, you know, get to your point and allow me to respond. But so it's more of that kind of thing. Yes, snitches get to. But in chat, I mean, some of these people that come here have a reputation. So I don't necessarily know that reputation because, unlike them, I don't hang around presuppositional sites and troll them and make a nuisance out of myself. So it's kind of it's. I just don't do that. Okay, if you want to come here and have but if you're going to sit there for 2.5 minutes and preach to me your point of view, when I'm way back here with your Romans quote that you haven't proven to start the whole discussion, I think you need to go back to the Romans quote and let's discuss that. But you could pretty much tell that one, the second guy was definitely on a script. The other guy is just like, what meaning do you offer? And I'm like, I don't have to offer meaning. I think that's one of the biggest presuppositional assumptions, that a worldview has to offer meaning. Well, atheism doesn't necessarily offer meaning. Okay, it's an answer to one question: is there a God or not? And the answer most of us atheists get, well, no, not given the evidence I've seen so far, no. Okay. Yeah. Yep. That would be the definition of hermeneutics. And there's plenty of books on biblical hermeneutics out there, and they will most definitely. Yes. Asho does that on a regular basis. He does start mod wars. So, yeah. I used to have an entire biblical studies library once upon a time when I was a pastor that would have taken up the whole wall behind me. So, yeah, that's where I learned all this stuff. So, yeah, you get more into scholarship and you start, okay, oh, this is how they do things. It's why a lot of theists, get all mad at me because I read their mail. Like those pre-suppers that came on tonight, I knew where they were going. I kind of, as soon as they started, I'm like, okay, pre-supper, and here we go. We're going to attack my viewpoint instead of defending their own. Okay, you're the one making the assumption that there's a God, prove there's a God. Okay. Oh, I can't do that, so I'm just going to attack somebody that, it's the age-old illogic of, if I prove everybody else wrong, I must be true. Okay, not realizing there might be alternatives. Yeah, it's Jordan Peterson all over. They attack the opposing position and they say a lot of words, but they don't bother to let anybody respond to them, because as soon as you realize what they're saying, they're not saying anything. Okay, they're not saying anything. Yeah. So remember, you're dead on. This is why I don't allow them in the comments, because they're just harassing. They're just harassing the atheists, and they think that if they do that, they win points. The guy, I'll bet. Okay, the last guy, his whole point was to post that in the comments that my show was a sham. Okay, that was the whole point of his discussion, and he knew I wasn't going to accept what he was saying in the script he was running. I was going to shut him down. Wait a minute, I need to, I need to address the point. No, you got to go back to that point. But yeah, Jordan Peterson, he just recently came out with a book. Okay, so I know that Mind Shift was starting to address it, but JP is like trying to attack atheism, as if it proves it's untrue, his position's untrue. And of course, Jordan Peterson is like very evasive on his own views. He gets really slippery. So, and that's the same thing with a lot of pre-suppers. They get very slippery. They don't want to address their connection. I don't have to assume anything, but I don't have to assume that. I don't have to assume that you're true. Okay. Because when he actually talks about psychology, which is actually his field, he actually makes some valid data-driven points. The problem is he categorizes religion in a different category of knowledge needed to attain it. So he considers atheism like he calls it an illegal chess move, because we're not even dealing with the same categories of knowledge when we talk about God and God belief and faith. He just has this compartmentalization that different things are acquired by different forms of knowledge. And my point is, if God exists, he would definitely hold up to science and history as well. So, but there's some truth to that. There's some truth to that too. He definitely allows God believers to like pat themselves on the back for being God believers. You know, he does that. So, but yeah, yeah. But there you have it. But today I want to thank the two presuppers for showing up and demonstrating why they're crap. Okay, I just want to, because you don't let people talk, you run your spiel because you're insecure about your position, so you can't have a genuine conversation. You know, you keep shutting me down from talking when I'm trying to respond to one of your points. Okay, I'm trying to respond to one of your points, and no, can't do it. And then you have the other guy saying, well, what difference does it make? What meaningful existence do you give as a Christian when Christians support slavery and suppression, and somehow you have this ego about yourself that you're better than everybody else? I don't see how that gives anything to anything. But you're never allowed to make those points because they won't let you. And then they'll run off and say, oh, this is a sham because he won't let me talk. And it's like, no, bro, you need to go back and watch it. I'm trying to address some of your points, and you keep shutting me down. You know, go back and look at the text. Bad way. It's at the expense of others. Yeah, when you really look at religion, it's always at the expense of others that don't hold the religion. So there's that. But I got to go. I actually have to work tonight because the store is shut down on Thanksgiving, so I don't have to work Wednesday night. So they're giving me the opportunity to make up the hours. So I'm going to do that. But I do have to run. I want to thank all my mods today. I think you guys kept chat okay. I think I learned a lesson here tonight where I'm going to make sure that anybody who comes on that's a theist that wants to make a point, make your point. Yeah, definitely thank you, mods. I appreciate you guys. I know you guys have a lot of fun with each other, but thanks for watching things. I want to thank everybody for being here. As always, thanks to the couple donations I got. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Appreciate all of you. Wednesday, I think I'm going to do a Thanksgiving stream, and I won't have to go to work, so we'll do that, and we can just kind of chill a little bit. And then next week, I may try reacting to a video live. We'll see how that works. So, but yes. Okay, so take care, everybody. I appreciate all of you. You guys are great. Thanks once again for stopping by. And as always, make sure you live your best life. You only get one go around, and so then it's over. So make sure you're doing all to take all your time, money, and opportunities to make the world a better place. Spend them on yourselves and the people you love and care for. You'll be happier if you do. Trust me, I speak from experience. And as always, thanks for stopping by, everybody. And I will catch you next time.